And welcome back to Temple Timeout, where the sports desk takes a deeper dive into not only Temple athletics, but the world of sports in general. Now, Nate, I'm excited, but how'd that money line go yesterday?
UNC money line was not a lock. Never take advice from me in the future. But you're right, we do have a lot to talk about today. The basketball season wrapped up this week with a lot of great games. Let's start with the action from the national championship.
Slipped underneath. They go to Love. Love's going to be the one to take it. Puts up the shot. It's off. The game is over. And Kansas completes the biggest championship comeback all time.
Kansas took home the NCAA Men's Basketball National Championship on Monday night after a huge 16-point comeback against North Carolina. This was the largest comeback in championship game history. This was the fourth national championship for the Jayhawks. And on the women's side, it was a duel between the rising juggernaut of South Carolina and UConn. The Gamecocks took home their second national championship in a great defensive effort against the versatile Huskies. And of course, South Carolina, coached by Philadelphia's own, the great Dawn Staley, former Owls head coach and current U.S. women's national team head coach. Her players and fellow coaches spoke about how important she is to that program and creating a legendary resume and amazing culture. She spoke after the game about the pressure going into this national championship.
This journey of being a coach has been truly gratifying. And I have to reflect on this part of it. Like it comes with a great deal of pressure. Pressure because we were the number one team in the country throughout the entire season. Pressure to come into the NCAA tournament and be the favorites by most people, not all.
Ducharme gets swallowed up by Boston. Here comes Henderson.
This was South Carolina's fourth Final Four appearance under Staley and a dramatic rebound after a heartbreaker last year. It really makes you think what she could have done with more time on North Broad.
Absolutely. Now, last week on Temple Timeout, we talked about several players on Temple men's basketball team entering the transfer portal, including freshman guard Jeremiah Williams. Now, the Chicago native took to social media earlier this week announcing that he will be heading to Iowa State. The Cyclones made a solid run at the tournament, taking down Wisconsin and LSU as an 11th seed. So far, none of the other remaining players have publicly committed to another school.
Over the weekend, we saw one of the most famous faces in sports retire. Coach K of Duke. He was loved by some and despised by others. And this got us thinking, who are some of the biggest sports villains that should get a little bit more love?
Absolutely. Here to discuss this with us, a man who we both spent some time with at Texas covering the tournament, Josh Shafran. All right, what comes to mind when you think of villains in the sports world that should get more love?
Well, honestly, the first person who came to mind for me was LeBron. And then I was like, you know what? LeBron deserves the hate, and he gets the love. So you know what? I had to check him out. That was the first thing that came to mind. But I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this one. Barry Bonds.
Okay.
The MLB is still profiting off that steroid era. I mean, let's face facts here.
Yeah.
And that home run craze that was created by the McGwire, the Sosa, I still see highlights from McGwire and Sosa. I see nothing ever about Barry Bonds. Sure. Keep them out of the Hall of Fame if you want. We get it. He wasn't the best guy. McGwire, Sosa, and Bonds are all not in the Hall of Fame. But there's a case to be made that Barry Bonds is the closest thing the MLB has to Michael Jordan. Right. This man has the most home runs of all time at 762. He won 7. Count it. 7 MVPs, also 8 Gold Gloves to boot. He is literally one of the best baseball players of all time. When's the last time we've seen a highlight of Barry Bonds? I get it. He wasn't the best guy. He did some things wrong. But Nate, time heals all wounds. It's been 15 years since this guy's played in the MLB. Why can't I see a single highlight of him? Barry Bonds deserves, we don't need to shower with flowers, but give him a highlight. He did so much for the game.
So that's all you're asking for, just a highlight,
Just some highlights. You know, you see Michael Jordan highlights, and of course Michael Jordan, no one's like Mike. I mean, he's the best guy, he's the best player. But Barry Bonds, I mean, he crushed balls. This is what the people like. We dig the long ball.
Right.
Just show me something.
Show me something.
Like, I mean, I don't entirely disagree with that, Josh. They say the hardest thing to do in any sport, is hitting a baseball, right? And he did a lot. He hit a lot of baseballs.
He did it a lot.
He hit a lot of baseballs. He hit a lot of baseballs far. So I honestly, entirely disagree with that, Josh. It's maybe questionable at best, but it's not terrible. My choice, however,
What is it?
great choice. One of the most recognizable people in sports broadcasting. There was actually at one point a petition to get him off the air. Any ideas?
No.
That's right, I am talking about Joe Buck.
There it is.
Legendary, yes, I said legendary broadcaster. So why should we like him? It's simple. When you hear his voice, you think sports. He has some of the most famous calls. He's called some of the biggest games. You think World Series, you think Joe Buck. You think NFL, you think Joe Buck. You know, he's just one of those guys. Now listen, people don't like him because they say he's biased. Josh, you're a guy who does play-by-play plenty of times. You got to be neutral, right?
It's pretty hard to be biased sometimes, not going to lie. I mean, you get caught up in the game.
Exactly. Not everybody can be a Mark Zumoff. Shout out to the Temple grad. You know, and he gets a bad rep, you know?
Nate, I agree with you there, but I noticed something while you were talking. You went to say the word unique, but then you couldn't say it, because that is the one thing about Joe Buck. He's very to the book. He is not necessarily unique, but I agree. He gets a bad rap. He's so good at what he does at the end of the day.
Exactly. And, you know, we can all strive to be a little bit more like him. And you're right, people think he hates fun. But listen, this all happened in the booth. Joe Buck, outside of the booth, is a regular guy. He has a podcast. You listen to it?
I haven't.
I have not either. But you probably should. If you ever seen an interview with him, he's a regular guy. He just loves sports. You know, what are you
not to love?
Sounds like
exactly.
me. Sounds like me.
He's exactly like you. All right, Alexis,
All right.
you had
Now
a surprise.
listen. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring back to something you've brought up already. Every now and then, I'm scrolling through Twitter.
Okay.
You know, as we all do, as us sports fans do when significant things are happening.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, last week I was on Twitter. Can we pull something up from Twitter, because Temple Update's very own Nate Stanley has a vendetta against Coach K, and you guys see the material right here.
Yeah.
There's nothing really else that I can say, but Nate, I just want to know, a legendary guy like what's wrong?
Oh,
Why do
goodness.
we hate Coach K? Talk to us. The people want to know.
I did not expect that this is what you were going to do when you said surprise. Is my face red? It probably is. I mean, he's an easy guy not to like. All right, we're going to throw it back a little bit.
Throw it back.
My grandparents lived in Chapel Hill.
Back.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I was born and raised to bleed Tar Heel blue.
Okay.
You know, I visited the campus plenty of times. I love that school. Didn't submit an application when I was in high school though, but the Tar Heels are very close to my heart. I love the school. I love the people down there. And you know what? If you bleed Tar Heel blue, you can't like Coach K. You just can't.
Okay.
Also, he's not you see everything he does, even after the UNC game, going up to players and being weird and touching people. I don't know. He's not a great guy. He does a lot of things for show. He's like any other great though, you know?
Okay. But so we can say we give him his respect.
Of course. Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, all these great coaches. You got to, there's going to always be that crowd of people who dislike him.
All right. See, now, listen, I'm here to hear all sides of the story. I just feel like we had to know because you seemed very passionate the other night.
It was good tweets, though. You didn't like any of them. Retweet any of them. So,
Well, because I'm a Coach K fan. I'm a Coach K fan.
Awkward. All right. Well, that is going to do it for our discussion about sports villains. Be sure to tweet at us if you think we were right or wrong, or if you also want to get on the Coach K hate wagon. Anyway, thank you, Josh, for talking to us today. Now let's head to the ballpark because baseball is officially back. Speaking of Barry Bonds, the Phillies are kicking off their season this Friday, but the path to this season and this opening day was a bit rockier than in years past. Temple Update's AJ Patel will be reporting from Citizens Bank Park with the story of how the lockout created chaos for fans and players and employees, as well as an opening day preview.
This year marks the 75th anniversary of Jackie Robinson becoming the first African American to play in the Major Baseball League. On April 8th, the Claire Smith Center for Sports Media will host a symposium that will examine the history made by Robinson and the Dodgers nearly 20 years before the Civil Rights Movement. It will be a hybrid symposium that will feature iconic sports figures like keynote speaker Dusty Baker, Larry Doby Jr., and Billy King, and so many more. The event will be held in the Student Center from 12 to 5 p.m., and you can register online at Eventbrite. And if you can't make it, no worries. There will be somebody to give highlights of this event next week, and that
That somebody
person's
is
me.
You.
That person's me. I'll
That's
be there.
exciting.
I got the story for you guys.
Awesome. And we got one more preview for you back on the gridiron. The football team is shaping up to kick off its spring season this weekend. The Cherry and White game will take place on Saturday at 3 p.m. at Edberg Olson Complex. The sports desk, Jonah Wooten, will be there to report on the Owls and stop by next week's show. That's right, Jonah's coming by to tell you all about it, so get ready for that.
Absolutely. And speaking of the gridiron, the Eagles announced some colorful news this week. The Eagles will be bringing back their Kelly green jerseys in the 2023 season as
Beautiful.
a special alternate jersey. Are you excited?
I love that. I absolutely love it. One of my favorite jerseys of all time that I own is a Kelly green jersey. They're just beautiful.
I think
It's amazing.
beautiful is the way to go.
Yes. And the return of Kelly Green got us thinking, what are some of the most memorable jerseys Temple has worn this past year? We've been doing a lot of thinking over this past week for this show. And we're going to show you a couple of those right now. Football, all-white jerseys. I love these jerseys. I love a nice all-white jersey.
Classic.
I think it looks good. Also, big thing, you're playing football, all-white jersey. You get some stains on it, it shows you're fighting hard. I remember I played football for a year, and my coach said that. He said, if you don't have any grass on your jersey, you're not playing hard.
All right, and I think that's a valid point. So now moving on, the football black alternate. I'm a fan of the all black.
Okay.
I think there's just something so clean, and we're here to handle business. All black. All black at a night game, can't go wrong.
You know who hates the all black? Our
tell.
wonderful producer, Jonathan, says that he does not like the black jerseys. Not a big fan. He wishes that they would just never come back on, but we'll get into that another day. And next, we're also taking a look at the basketball gray script logo. You like this one, Alexis, right?
I do. I love gray in general, and I think not a lot of teams will bring out the gray. I think Temple does that more often, so
Sure.
I like that. It's a little different.
Yeah, and you can't do too much with the color. It's black. It's cherry and white. Black, gray, you find a good medium in there, and, can't get too creative.
Exactly. Now, me, personally, it's not a jersey, but I'm a big fan of the gymnastics Leos. Every week, it seems, they bring out some fire, and the social media team does a great job at showcasing it, those video edits. It's just, everything is so, neat, but, we're the Owls.
City
What are you
edition
gonna
looked
do?
good there.
City edition.
Temple
It
colors.
doesn't get better than that.
And of course,
They go crazy with the pink.
the pink meat.
The pink meat.
You can't not love the pink meat. Pink
Meat Leos.
leotards, yeah, you love it.
It's them. It's fitting. And when you're a team that handles business the way that the gymnastics team, you have to dress the part.
Exactly.
And that's what the gymnastics team does.
So is that our pick for the best on
best.
Temple's campus? Gymnastics?
I'm
It's
go-
got to be, right?
I'm picking gymnastics every time.
Okay, awesome. We also have a look here at volleyball and their jerseys. White shirts, white long sleeve shirts, like I said, you can't get grass stains on a volleyball court, right? But it still looks good enough. Cherry and white is always going to look good. It's always going to be classic. And also we have the men's soccer all black jerseys. Those look dope. As you said, a lot of night games.
Night games.
And the fall, a little crisp air, black jerseys, run up and down the field, scoring goals, black jersey, black, oh, black, oh, black. We like it.
And then, of course, last but not least, we have field hockey, black and cherry. Like I said, I'm going to pick black every time.
Yeah, a little curious, though. It looks a little bit like the Houston Cougars there.
Yeah.
In their basketball jerseys, but hey.
Yeah, going back, I just feel like going back to football, when they said, okay, we're going from Under Armour to Nike, I just expected more.
Yeah.
I was kind of underwhelmed at the Nike rebrand. But it's okay.
I mean, maybe we're going to see some more moving forward. You never know. Possibly in the coming years. It takes some time to get into stuff like that.
Absolutely.
All right, well, jersey talk aside, sports villain talks aside, that is going to do it for this week's edition of Temple Timeout. Be sure that you're sticking with us on social media for all things Temple Sports on Twitter at @TU_SportsDesk. And stay tuned. We have updates, as we mentioned, on the football spring game and the MLB starting day.
For Nate Stanley, Josh Safran, and the rest of the Temple Timeout crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.